Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And I know we're all in different time zones, and this is the most agreeable we can find. So we really appreciate it for you to be here. And we're just gonna go around some introduction, and we will have some discussion later on. It's quite casual, so feel free to express yourselves and don't be shy. And if you have something you want to put out there. So we're just gonna start with I want to introduce to you Alessandra Tianetti from Bagri Foundation. And Bagri Foundation is one of our generous funders that made this project happen, along with Genesis Foundation. So I'm just going to head to Alessandra to speak a bit about what it means for Bagri Foundation for them to support a project like where I'm coming from.
So thank you, Rhine and Linda. We were very pleased that you came to us to ask support for this project that we really enjoyed last year, and we were very happy to support this year. And actually, for people who don't know, the Bagri Foundation is a London-based charity that supports arts, multidisciplinary arts, from artists from Asia, from Asian diaspora, or from Asian heritage. And among some projects that we are working on now, just for you to have an idea, we have been working on outdoor commissions with the A-Work galleries, with the Asia Forum platform. At the same time, we really look at what are the most interesting projects that curators, artists are creating in order to create connections among diaspora, but also among different countries internationally. And obviously, where I'm coming from was one of those. And we really enjoyed the fact that you were focusing on languages and prioritizing languages that are not the one they are, commonly used in the global north. And this is a lens that was quite new also for us. So yeah, our thanks to you for bringing this to our attention.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Alessandra. Thank you. And I'm gonna briefly read a statement by the Genesis Foundation. They couldn't be here. So in 2020, the Genesis Foundation launched the Genesis Kickstart Fund, which is a 1 million fund designed to enable outstanding freelance artists to stay on their career path and explore new possibilities in a world radically altered by COVID-19. And marking the 20th anniversary of the foundation, the Genesis Kickstart Fund generates structured, project-based working opportunities for a diversity of freelancers, creative professionals who have earned an income whilst participating in future-facing projects and continuing to build their careers and professional networks. And the Genesis Foundation is proud to support where I'm coming from. That was one of the first 60 projects to be awarded a Genesis Kickstart Fund. So thanks as well to Genesis. Rhine, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, so they are our funders, and if it's any interest to any of you here, maybe you can get in touch. They're quite good at supporting projects like ours. Now I'm going to briefly introduce our panel moderator for today, Dr. Patrick Flores. So Patrick Flores is a Filipino curator, critic, and professor, and he is currently the curator of main curator and head program director of Vargas Museum in the Philippines, based in the University of the Philippines. And he has a very long list of accolades that I encourage you to take a look at. We wouldn't have time to go through to them, but I'll pass it to him now to talk about his experience of where I'm coming from and some few notes that maybe he was able to see and the overlapping concepts and notions across the work. So Patrick, over to you.
Hi everyone. I'm Patrick. I'm from Manila. I teach art history, so my background is academic, but I have also done curatorial work, which is largely informed by my art historical training. I teach art history at the University of the Philippines and also curate the University Museum. And Yeah, so, but I think to talk about the works across the board might come later after, I think, after listening to the, I don't want to preempt the the sharing of the artists. I'd like to pick up from where they express their concerns. I think that's a better way to begin the conversation. Yeah.
Thanks, Patrick. I guess this is a good idea. Maybe if someone wants to start introducing themselves, so then we can sort of pass the word. What do you think, Va-Bene? Do you feel like kickstarting?
Yeah.
Introducing yourself and the work for where I'm coming from.
Just a bit of notes as well before we proceed. So we got a lot of help curating the show as well. So we curated it, but there's also programming from different languages that help us in being able to introduce the different artists. And some of them are Thanom from Khon Kaen, who's now based in Khon Kaen. So a few of the Thai artists we got introduced through him, and then Vabene also helped us curate the Aoe program through his network of amazing artists in Ghana, and as well as Baan Noorg, G and Yin from Thailand helped us work with Saroot for the cooking session. So I guess we're gonna go through them first to talk about the curation process first, and then we're gonna go to all the artists. So Vabene, if you wanna start, please. Thank you.
So, yes. Hello. Hi, everyone around the world. We are not belonging to the town now. I'm hiding in Khon Kaen, leaving Bangkok behind because Bangkok now is become
thank you very much. And I'm so happy to be.
Yes.
There's an audio mismatch.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a delay.
I see.
But Thanom, you feel free. I'm gonna sort it out with Va-Bene.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. So, shall I?
Yeah, Chef. Yeah, I think
Okay.
Thanom, you can continue. Yeah.
Okay, I will continue. So, I mean, a part of the project where I'm come from, this is a very, of course, it's very attractive me because there's a lot of artistic activist movement since 2 years ago. We are running the project. A part of the mass protest in Bangkok is we find out that the heart of movement, everyone's asking where I am coming from, why we are coming to the center, why we are in Bangkok. This is very just a great attack in my heart. That's why I'm following the artists who working with the protesting, like the singer, like performance. That's why I pick up 2 artists to joy, to sharing, to it's not kind of experimental, but they are permanently join the mass protest. Even though today Ar-Lek is already in jail. I'm sorry about that to tell you, because a part of he singing a song, the protesting of the constituent court in front of the court, and then police come to take him to the bed in afternoon. That's why I'm leaving Bangkok behind. So, and also Kullathida, she's only 21st years old. And now she got more than 20 bill of the court. I mean, how come? So this is everyone's asking from the using artistic movement to join, to protest, to do this. That's why, I mean, a part of this project I will run where I am coming from in northeast of Bangkok, Thailand. I'm not calling northeast of Thailand because Bangkok is the center of everything. And northeast is northeast because the center try to point it out. We are the northeast, but we are the people. We have the history. We have the background. We fight for equality. This is that we do the project. That's why, I mean, briefly, I want to continue this project to the people. That's why I call Plebeian aesthetics, people aesthetics, to against the mainstream of dictatorship aesthetic that we're using in Thailand now. I mean, last week, Thailand political sphere is become darkness when the Constitutional Court judged that all the activists is become the prisoner of demolition of monarchy system. This is the thing. That's why I'm very appreciate. I'm very glad to join our. I can say I am our comrade of artistic movement in this area. Thank you very much. Sorry and briefly. Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Thanom. It's our pleasure to have you in the program. And yeah, I just wanted to share that we have constant conversation throughout the process of how, you know, there's a bit of delay because there's like the artists are requested to go to the precinct or there's a call from the court. So it's a real challenge when you talk about art and activism and the situation of the artists that that Thanom is working with and the context that they're working with. So thank you so much for that. Now I think we were moving on with Va-Bene from Ghana. So Va-Bene, are you here? Okay, maybe we can wait a bit. So okay, so maybe we'll move with to Baan Noorg first. So G and Yin are here to join us. They're also based in Thailand. They're on Baan Noorg, which is community-based, collaborative, multidisciplinary art project. And they're here to talk about their involvement with where I'm coming from and about I'm not sure if Saroot here, the artist from who create the work, but I think they could speak about that. So, Jianin, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Yeah. Just got home a few minutes ago from a trip to visit sites. Glad we make it finally to meet everyone here. And thank you so much again for inviting us. And glad to meet somebody who we used to meet from other projects. We are from quite a small town in Lajburi, so it's like southwest of Bangkok. And in fact, we are closer to Myanmar than some parts, many parts around. And also we are glad that we can also connect to the Thai Yuan ethnic group for this project, which is one of the important ethnic in our hometown. So, and then we also work with Saroot in having the work here for this project, where we really like to work with Saroot for this project in for his interest that he has been working with the oral histories and also personal narratives in his past works, but because he was traveling just now, so he could not be here. But he has a bit, he has a short video to create. Perhaps we can open it when we do the artist presentation part afterward. Okay, do you want to?
Thank you guys for being here as well. We know you were busy with the Jakarta Biennale, with Documenta as well. So thank you for making it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
we're pleased to.
Honestly, to be here with you guys.
So I'm not sure if Vabene is in the call now. I think she had some problems with tuning in. Vabene, are you here?
She has a message in the chat box.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Back now. Yeah. Yeah, sorry for the terrible internet connection today. So I couldn't even listen to the questions and the people who were talking. So, but I guess we are to talk about our experience and how we came on board as curators and artists. Yeah, I wanted to say that I am personally very grateful for the invitation from Rhine and Linda to participate in this. I see this event itself as a kind of revolutionary activity. And again, it's an intervention for reclamation. So when I was personally written to about the project and also explain the language specificity of the event, I quickly fell in love with the whole idea of how to decolonize art in a way that we can bring back indigenous. So language is one of the first key things to reinsert ourselves into the contemporary practice. And so creating the Aoe Platform, I did not want to reach out to artists already that I know, that I feel are privileged to access information and privileged to always be granted opportunity to share their stories. So I rather open a call to our residency platform for artists to apply. And that also explains how challenging it is to indigenous language practitioners to see themselves as artists and engaging in contemporary conversation. Because there are many vibrant and intelligent artists in Ghana, but when it became language specific, people were so struggling to see what they should propose and how they can be of it. At the end, we got some selection of 3, out of which 1 person dropped. And then we have to reconsider the next person who was in line. Another interesting and curious thing was that Ghanaian tradition and Aoe tradition specifically is very much of performativity. When people are cooking, they are singing and dancing. When people are washing, they are singing and dancing. So it was so much struggle to curate any of the works without having a music and sound and singing and dance in it. That was one of the challenge for the Aoe, because the performance or performance art is part of our life. It's not something separated that can be acted outside something. So even if the person is a visual artist, a painter, a sculptor, you may be tempted to see, or the work may be tempted to bring on board music performance. And so in curating this, I saw it myself, even with my own work that I contributed, I couldn't avoid the singing aspect of the work. So that is one of the beautiful things that I have rediscovered coming from the traditional methodology of creating. And so most of the persons who participated, they didn't participate necessarily as musicians or sound artists, but their work ended up bringing music on board. Like a work of McBonner, if you watch it, it wasn't music, but this actually brought a lot of music into play, because in our rituals, you cannot avoid the performativities. And then the work of Kafui actually was based on music, but you can see how that crossed the other disciplines that participated. And then my work and Captain's work. Captain's work, he struggled to reduce the music from the background because the work needed to go with the traditional music that goes with food and eating. And so this actually were some of the discoveries, which I wouldn't say were struggled, but I would say they are realizations for indigenous practices and artists who are working within this interest to see how they curate themselves and others. So this was my curatorial journey and how I came up with these 3 other artists who participated in the event. And I'm very grateful. I'll end here for now. Oh, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I think I should. So I am Vabene Ellicotti, a multidisciplinary artist, a curator, and a founder and director of Purple Craze International Artist Residency in Ghana. I work across the globe, but I live in Kumasi, Ghana. And I'm also an advocate and activist for the LGBTQ rights activism, and a board member of the current LGBT rights organization in Ghana. So I identify as she or she as pronoun. So you can see that in my naming, she or she. And also a trans person, but preferably calling myself trans vata. Thank you.
Thank you, Vabene.
Thank you so much, Vabene. Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for switching up your video to accommodate Vabene's internet connection. We did it. Yeah, so Linda, shall we go around to all the artists? Like, feel free. We don't want to call you out, but just feel free to start when you feel ready. So yeah.
You can maybe introduce yourself, and maybe if you want, tell us a little bit about the idea of the work you've produced. How did it came about? What was in your mind? And yeah, you know, what you feel comfortable in saying, obviously. Please go, Bindu.
Good evening, everyone. I would love to listen to, it was lovely listening to you. I think, okay, internet is a little iffy here. I'm sorry. And I volunteer to go first because I have a performance right after this. So I'll have to start getting dressed for my play. So I'm JainBindhumalini Narayanaswamy from India. I'm originally from Tamil Nadu, but now I live in Bangalore. I'm a singer, composer, and today in the play I'll also be acting. So, and a designer, graphic designer. Thank you, Linda and Rhine, for imagining this beautiful project, and thank you for having me on board for this. It is really very special because I have not come across something like this, and somehow I think you really turned around the digital world. The fact that it's all happening from our own living room itself made it a little different. And for me, it was very special because my identity as a Tamilian has been very difficult. For me to speak in Tamil, my language, I know it's home for me. At the same time, I went to a school where Tamil was not taught because I went to a central board, an all India syllabus, and not a state specific, region specific school. So I didn't really get the chance to learn to read and write Tamil fluently. I learned it on my own later, but of course, what I spoke at home was Tamil. And it's interesting because Tamil has the history of course, it is one of the most ancient language. At the same time, politically, it has always pushed against Hindi, the national language of India. So somehow, therefore, Tamil has been an island of its own. Tamil Nadu has been an island, a linguistic island on its own, where there has been the extreme rejection of Hindi. And the school I went to, I learned Hindi. So there was the whole thing about which language should I identify with. And I, as an artist, have tried to break this polarity in this polarizing thing that happens within Tamil Nadu and outside, of saying, oh, you come being a Tamilian, you should be speaking only Tamil. You should be singing only in Tamil. And when you go outside, you're looked at differently, saying, "Acha, you're from Tamil Nadu. How would you speak Hindi?" So you get both, irrespective of where you are. And I have stood my ground to say, this tongue should be able to roll to incorporate and accommodate as many beautiful sounds of all the languages that can, because I don't have to own up my language by rejecting any other language. You know, I want to I am proud of all the languages, including mine, because this divide has scarred deeply, you know. So it's always a divide in the identity, and you have to take. So I think this was beautiful to utter Tamil throughout the concert, and I sang that in Bangalore to an audience who were not necessarily Tamil speaking, except for one or two who were sitting there. So I think it was extremely special to do that, and to do that for an audience all around the world because of this online medium. I was not sitting there saying, I have only Tamilians around me listening to me. Nor did I have to fight saying, no, I will establish my Tamil identity by singing, you know. So it's a complex relationship that way. And thank you for making me choose this, but at the same time feel my love for my own language, my own home, knowing that I love every other language equally and respect it, you know, because there's a lot of lack of respect because of language in India. So that's, I mean, at a time and age where we're all choosing to constantly polarize in our country right now, any identity you take on is tricky. There are very specific identities you need to take on to follow the dominant narrative. So to not reject and yet stand proud is to be inclusive about your spirit is very important at this point. And I think that was amazing. And interestingly, I thought I would have been asked to do, seeing your 2020 curation, I thought I would have had to come up with a piece in Tamil, an artistic piece. But all you asked for was just a concert. And I was like, oh, I just have to sing? Isn't it? So I was like, that's the easiest thing I can do. I will sing. And, because I thought I'll make an art installation out of sound and music. So this is exactly the other challenge of all I had to do was sing, whereas I really wanted to do something else. But still, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And thank you so much for doing this. So it's not just Tamil, decolonizing Tamil in the world. It's decolonizing Tamil in the mind of Tamilians and in India, in fact. So
Thank you, Bindu, and for accommodating us in your busy schedule. Shall we proceed to the next one? Please just feel free when you are ready. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I should say Minglaba. My name is Nhan Ong. I'm calling from Melbourne, Australia. So there's something we do called acknowledgement of country. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land from which I am joining this meeting today, the peoples of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present. With that being said, I also want to acknowledge my thanks to Linda, Rhine, Alessandra, and to all my fellow artists who are here with us today. I think it's an interesting time because, as Thanom so honestly shared, Jian and Banung, and now Bindu, I think our cultures are now waking up and rising up. Burma is probably doing the worst of everyone right now, but there's an awakening in us all that really gives me quite a lot of courage, and it's really quite phenomenal to see everyone together. But with that being said, I am an industrial designer, a design researcher, and also an artist. Normally, I work at a lab called Design Health Collab, where we invent and design all sorts of crazy new health technologies. A CT scanner the size of a luggage bag. I'm talking to radio scientists to create new imaging systems, all kinds of crazy stuff, like, believe me. But all that actually comes from art. And I think art is at the root of it all. Now, for the longest time, what's at least in my career is that, like I've designed an aircraft here and there, and I've done this there and there, all cool stuff. But the truth is, like I've been sort of hanging out, doing all these things that are personal passions of mine. But I've never really, other than in very personal times, I've never really looked much into the Burmese-ness of myself. It's not because I'm trying to separate myself from it. Like, I have Burmese family, I speak Burmese food. Like, I mean, I just didn't really, as a creative, reflect on that enough. But then early this year, as many of you know, the military attempted a coup, which sparked an uprising in Burma. And so suddenly every person of Burmese heritage, friends of Burma, and everyone got together, and we're now starting what I believe is a Burmese Renaissance. And I am particularly enamored by what's going on now, as horrible as it is, because the revolution is now being led by two people: medical staff and artists. I mean, that's kind of what I do. I design art and art and that stuff. So I find it very interesting. And so where I'm coming from a crucible. I'm starting to look at where art, design, and my heritage are all heated in dissidence. And it's kind of, I'm now looking at really what's this cross between art, design, technology, and now one's heritage. And not just, when you say heritage, people tend to kind of just look into the past and represent that. I'm now starting to look at how does all this come together for the future. I love that when some of you mentioned about identity. I love that when you guys mentioned about decolonizing what you've been taught and what you're doing. And all in all, I'm just going to close with this. I'm very excited to be here with you guys.
Oh, thank you, Nyan. Enchax, do you feel like join? Yeah. I know you're in Burma now, right?
Yes. Hello. I'm Enchax. My real name is Ninja. I like go Ninja. That's the complexity of our language. Like we don't really have the full name. We don't really have like first name or last name, so we had to use our full name in every situation. As I'm starting out my career as an augmented reality developer, and Myanmar has been the center of attention this year. So it's like we only people like discover our country because of the military coup lately. So like we only got to use our language in Google to search things for past 3 years. So we are not really connected with the other country apart from Thailand and Singapore. People don't really know who we are. So if we mention something about Burmese or Myanmar, we have to say like it's near the Thailand, or it's near Singapore, or people will find out. So but for this year, Myanmar has been hitting the news, and what I found out is that it is that the art and that we portray are really impactful to them all aspects of the revolution. So people are now listening to our voice and seeing things that we present, and I only found out that art can be really impactful and very effective in presenting. So it's kind of made me proud of who I am, and I'm still a youngling, so I'm studying. I'm sorry if I'm nervous. I'm very excited to be here. Please don't get me wrong. So I started to love exploring our language more and more because it has a deeper meaning, but no one really appreciated it before. So we don't really think it is necessary to look into our language as well. So it's just my opinion, but I love my language, and I am really proud of who I am. And thank you for today. And I hope you guys have a great day. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's fine. Like, don't be nervous. Like, it's just like we're just talking here. But thank you so much for sharing all of that. Okay, so I guess we're gonna go through like calling out people because I'm not sure if who is here. I think we have Megbona and Captain. Are you there?
For the record, by the power of a Zoom, you are allowed to call on people if you're the host. I think that's been established now. Because yeah.
Yes, I'm here. The internet is a bit rough, so please forgive me for that. Yeah, my name is Geoffrey, Captain. I'm usually called Captain by my friends and family. Yeah, this. Well, first, I would like to thank you all for this invitation and for the projects. It's been very interesting for me because language for me has become like a barrier to which we have not been able to sometimes express ourselves so well because maybe because you're speaking a certain language or in a certain way, people find it difficult to accept you as a person. So for me, as an artist and a person, I use food to kind of blend between the lines of arts and life. So for me, this project was so interesting to me that I could use my language to express myself in my in a food that is kind of how do you call it, that originates from my side of the world and yet I could express that for other people to also have an experience of it. And that for me was so interesting that people on the other side of the world could have a bit of a window into how arts can travel so wide, and how the world is, sorry for the noise that is in the background though, because of the internet, I have to move to different places to get quite a good sound. Yeah, so it's very, this project has been very interesting to me, and I'm very grateful to the whole team and to pIAR, Vabene, who put it online so we could all apply and then get invited and be part of the program. So thank you so much and have a nice day.
Thank you, Captain. And I can see McBona in a super cool space as well. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
You're muted.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Hello, everyone. Am I live now?
Hey, how are you? And I gotta ask, like, is it a straight up bar next to you? Like, do you have an actual bar?
This is my studio. This is where I work with my sounds, and this is where I record. All right. So, well, yeah, I'll start off by saying when I saw the call for artists to be a part of the program, something came to mind when I was applying. I remember growing up where our teachers would, I don't know what to. This is the right. I think I wrote it down when I was applying to be a part of this program, because I was looking at how I can create art using Aoe as a language, because as Vab said earlier, you realize that where we are from, we can't actually differentiate our art practices, because the performance art fuses with the visual art as well. So I wanted to see how best I could work with Aoe as a language to create something that will not only be inspiring, but also re-educate ourselves as Aoe. So I came across a lot of historical stories about our people, a lot of our legends, how our people had to migrate from one place to another place to eventually where we were. And I wanted to create a piece that speaks to that fact. But one thing that kept ringing in my mind was, how will the people who speak the language perceive it? Will they see it as art? Will they see it as something that educates them? And one thing I wrote down that actually inspired me was, I was like, our teachers at the time, they kicked our asses very hard. They would make us wear a lot of placards for a week or sometimes the whole term. And we'll have exercise books where we'll write by saying, I won't speak vernacular again. So using that same medium to create art, it was quite challenging. What stories do we tell? What choice of words do I use? How do I speak to the collective consciousness of these same people that made us wear placards that said, I won't speak Aoe again in school, or I won't speak vernacular again? So it was quite challenging. And the interesting aspect also was when I was ready to do this project and I had to go to my hometown, Nangmaga, which is where I'm from. It was beautiful to see the same community willingly being a part of it. They wanted to help tell the stories. Some wanted to re-educate me in telling the stories of our own people. So for me, it wasn't just a challenge, but it was identifying and finding my own self too, because my whole journey as an artist has always been about identifying and finding my own self. It's more like a conscious journey of awakening for me. So going back to my hometown to work with the sound elements and vocal projections and mannerisms of our people, it was a pleasant thing to do it. I'm very grateful for the platform to share my work and the experiences of my people in this collective work. Yeah. So I don't know if I've said it all, but I believe that's what I have to say for now.
Oh, thank you, McBona. Thank you so much.
We help Saroot to introduce what he's been thinking about after he's got this working title about cooking and language at the same time. He's been using the interviewing process through the local community member who is actually G's mother, and also one of another local resident here, to kind of seek this tradition about the one certain dessert. But what is interesting point is that he's interested in the food that relate to the worshipping ceremony, the spirit worshipping. So it connects to the ancestor worshipping ceremony. So then, so he shows the cooking recipe in his work, and then also some part also relate to some of the artist work here that also said about the activity or the tradition with the cooking, which has the dancing performance along the ceremony. And so also what is the step of making this dessert, and just brief history about this dessert called gong. So yeah, so this is like a working, combining the oral histories and also with the artist experience, how he interprets about this ceremony and the tradition of this particular food or dessert. Yeah, so that's why his work has a certain way to show the way he think about how to access to certain ethnic custom. So he make this kind of searching on the internet before he reached out to the particular local resident who can talk about this. Yeah. So in general, this is do you want to see some part of the work? I think it's about more like introducing. Yeah, what do you want to introduce from the experience that you, yeah.
Yeah, actually, Thai Yuan people, we are evacuated from Somia 200 years ago. So actually, yes, we are not Thai. And mostly 90%, 90% of the villager here are still speaking their own language, which I'm not understand. Even though my mom, she's one of the ethnic, but of course the mainstream education, they force us, like from the people from the mid 50, we are got the mainstream
education.
Education. The government forced us to speak a middle language. It just happened everywhere in Thailand, not only in our hometown. And yes, I think it's accordingly to the word that where I come from. The words like our name of collective name Ban Noorg. So Ban Nok is mean
Outsider.
Yeah, we are outsider. We are not
In the capital
people in the
city.
center, which means everyone who are not Bangkok, they are Ban Nok, even there where they live. I think for us, Bangkok is the placelessness, non-place. Because for us, Bangkok is seen. Of course, they have a power of the main government, but in general, most of people who live and work in Bangkok, they are from a countryside, which is they are from Ban Nok. And I think the ideas of communities will apparently absent if it's not listened for it of it in their writings, word or action. So this is how we can keep the community alive. And
identity also.
Yeah, and for the project that Saroot has done, I think food is very important for us too, because it has their own function to feed our, of course, to feed our stomachs, to feed our etc., and to face the micro politics of being a community. So it's kind of ritual. The foods that cook for a ghost, and the ghost is one of our connected to our future. However, we still can cook, and we can still have our ritual. We still have our own future along the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, both of you, and like for Saroot to prepare that message. Shall we? I think now we're gonna throw it to Patrick to facilitate the discussion and take over now.
Thank you,
I
Rhine.
just want to quickly add to the food discussion before you go on, Patrick. Just so you know, I totally agree with Jian Yin. The food in that area, even when you cross over to Myanmar, is the best in the entire country. I don't know if it's because of the diversity. Okay, a little too spicy for me, but it's definitely the best in that area for both Myanmar and Thailand, just my opinion.
Thanks for that tip. Yeah. Thank you everyone for sharing your experience and also your practice. It's great to hear from artists all the time. It's really a learning experience. The proposition of where I'm coming from is very interesting to me. It reminds me of a project we had long time ago in art history, because we were also developing a different way of writing art history. And me and my colleagues thought of the idea of the vernacular and also the viral. So, I mean, those two together to produce a different kind of art history that didn't really became a reality, but we had a seminar around it, and it's interesting that it also resonates with artists today, with the idea of indigenous language in relation to a digital platform to present creative production. No? So for me, the idea of where I'm coming from ultimately talks about address, meaning location, also origin, community, ecology, position, political position, whether margin or center, and so on and so forth. But there is another layer of the meaning of address, and that is a way to reach out, right? You address someone, or you address a public, no? You address a wider world, no? So this is an inclination outward, no? So it's a double coding, the idea of address, and also ultimately of where you're coming from. So which is very interesting. It's not a stable condition. It is fluctuating, it's fluid, and it's always situated. And I think we see this in the projects, no? How artists relate with other people, with other species, with spirits, with nature and politics, and so on and so forth. And one of the most important ways to articulate address is language, of course. And so I'm interested in this this challenge to foreground language as a category. No, I'm also having that complex problem as I curate the Taiwan Pavilion for Venice Biennale. Taiwan is being represented for the first time by an indigenous artist, not from the Han Chinese, which is dominant ethnic category in Taiwan, but an indigenous person from the south, which is closer to the Philippines, no? And is part of this Austronesian context, no? Which precedes Southeast Asia as a geopolitical term. So I was struck how Noorg talks about Zomia, because that's also another term, another category that tends to transcend geopolitics. No? So so what the language of an ethnic life world, or an indigenous life world, how does one negotiate that in relation to a particular platform? So which brings us also to the language of curation. How do you curate it? No? So there is a very lively life world that can only be accessed to that language, but you also want to bring that into the fold of a platform. That's why you curate it. No? So the challenge is, how do you do it within, for instance, an exhibitionary platform or a biennale platform. In my context, for instance, in Venice, it's the pavilion platform, which becomes complicated because Taiwan is not considered a nation state by Venice. They only deal with China, of course. So there is almost like double exclusion from the point of view of an island country that is not a nation, represented by an indigenous person who is not part of the dominant national identity. So so the language of curation is also important. And finally, maybe after this we can have a discussion. I'm also interested in the political project of curating creative form through the medium of language. What is the political project? Is it representation, which of course takes us to this notion of identity? No? Is it decolonization, which was brought up by Vabene earlier. Is it decolonization? Is it representation of identity? Is it restitution or reclamation, which I think many of you have also mentioned, no? So I think the more we think about it, the more the situation becomes complex and therefore also more open to discussion. So maybe Thanom can maybe pick up from this. How do you negotiate, no, between the language of a messy life world out there, and then the situation in the art world, no, that also would like to be in conversation with that mess, but because it is curated, then things change quite significantly. So how do you negotiate, because you move between the two locations?
Yes. Well, I mean, I love the word you using addressing or a location. I mean, for my background is art and culture. I mean, including food is very important. It's the power of the state quite a long time. I mean, in Isan or northeast of Bangkok, it's become Siam in early 19th century, around 1910. Before for my birthplace is autonomous state. They call Lao Gao. So generally we are speaking Lao, not Thai. And also the food is a Lao food. Som tam. This is a pickled fish or padak or whatever. It's become more and more a political term for the center using a food first to changing the grammar of our region. So I realized that the thing is 80% of a political movement in center of Bangkok is from Isan. Because of it's the biggest labor land in this country. Labor force, 80% is from Northeast. So they're bringing food, they're bringing language, they're bringing art and culture with them. Also, the aesthetic of a personal to the center. So once when they have a political movement or activist or mass protest, 80% is from Isan people. That's what I'm thinking last 2 years when they start making a political movement on the street of Bangkok, we pick up. See how we can using artistic activist movement join with the mass protest by using the instrument from Northeast, like pin can easily be like this. And applying this, you can see the work from Kullathida. She's from Khon Kaen, third-year student in King Mongkut in Bangkok. She's performed in Khon Kaen before in the front of the police station. She's using her period to throw into the banner of police station. It's a kind of taboo. And then she using her blue periods perform in Democracy Monument and using everywhere. And then she performed. I mean, for me, how we are deconstruction of the grammar of the center by using the artistic language from Northeast and review them and active. So that's why I'm very, very, very strong sense of using the topic where I am coming from. And once I'm talk to them, all the movement, because I'm not using artists, I'm using artistic activists, and everyone can join us and ask them where I am coming from, all the ground. And also on 19th of November, we have a big mass, and I invite Molam, is the entertaining band from Khon-Kaen to join the people marching in center of Bangkok. That's what I'm very enjoyable with the working while using a political location in the center. This is my point of view. And using is very worthwhile and it's very useful and very strong sense of using artistic grammar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting that you use the word grammar, Thanom, because it expands the idea of language, no? So that the artistic resources are absorbed in activism, no? So I think we can begin to see how the form can overcome binarism, no? Between what is only cultural or what is only political or what is only artistic and what is part of a larger solidarity. Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry, I think Linda. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I just wanted to sort of just point from our side, you know, from being in London, seeing the work of Kullathida and Ar-Lek. It was really, really palpable how it was risky. Like they were really taking risks to be artists. And that's a thing that obviously in London we don't have. You know, it's not risky to be an artist, and there's, you know, everyone can pretty much do what they please. Whereas really through that work, and now you said as well that Ar-Lek is in jail. So you really feel the importance and the relevancy of the work they do, and how as well, again, their position, how risky is their position. And from the background, so we were obviously managing the content. With Ar-Lek and Kullathida's work, we got huge censorship issues because the social media we were using was censoring the work. We weren't allowed to, maybe as other pieces of work, we were able to sort of share them around and make sure they were sort of posted. And we were completely stopped with Kullathida and Ar-Lek work. And that was as well crazy to think, you know, how as well social media platforms were actually preventing the work to be shared globally.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, it's interesting to put it forward as well how we think technology and the internet is a biased place, and there's a lot of censorship that happens and it favors certain topics. So if you notice, this is common experiences of artists. If mostly works and content that has political nature, it doesn't have to be like super strong, it just be mention of religion and faith. In some areas as well, you get less coverage from that because social media platforms don't favor this images and these words. And even with Thaipface, actually there's a lot of censorship that happened with the Thai program, because I think Thaipface, they just wrote words something to do with religion and mention of the king and the monarchy, and we couldn't boost them somehow because of just keywords that exist in the artworks that are not that threatening seemingly. But also I just wanted to point out how it's common, this thread. We have also experienced with working with the translator from Burmese translator who didn't want to be identified because of political reason and risk of these things. And there's a lot of that element as well that is happening in Myanmar, and some artists who couldn't work with us because of political nature, and also not forgetting that we're in the pandemic situation as well, that kind of goes on top of that. And again, this is like the dynamics that we have to deal with, and the real threat of being situated in different contexts. Well, we talk about activism here, as Linda said, and obviously it's different. There's people of color and queer people, like in Va-Bene's case as well, during making this work. I know that there's a lot of prosecution of a lot of queer people, and she's been at the forefront of that. So we also have to kind of experience that, but only very indirectly, and how it's difficult to process that from this distance, and just trying to find a way to maybe aid in that.
So can I add it up some? Because not just only that a part of the art works, but for me, it's artistic duty to push the boundary and negotiate with the state authority. This is our duty right now, even though it's risky. I cannot making or doing as aromaticize when the central state asking us to do, to promote the king, to promote the monarchies as whole.
That's really admirable.
Essentially, I have heard arguments that to create is to be a descendant to begin with, to be a creative at all is to challenge the current norm.
Va-Bene, please.
Well, I mean, we sorry, can I just only one sentence?
Okay.
It's our time. I mean, because we are accept them all for 200 or 300 years ago. We are accept the center. But it's our time to awakening, to raising our hand. There's no more. The less we're getting old, the more we have to do stronger.
Okay. Thank you all for bringing this interesting part of the conversation on board. First of all, I want to say that I am personally could ever produce a work of art without any political connotation. Whether the artist is aware or unaware, each work of art that is created now and yet to come are going to be part of the political engagement. Speaking from the way we created where I'm coming from, first of all, the phrase itself, where I'm coming from, for me, it is not a question, and it is not seeking for validation. It's not seeking for permission. It is self-reclamation. It is saying where I am coming from. It's telling you. So coming from Global South, Black communities, the challenge even to when Ghana is a singular language state. We speak over 80 different languages that each tribe or each community may not understand the other person. It will be like Chinese and English not understanding each other. And that is what we face in Ghana. So the only common language that brings the people of Ghana together in communication is English. Apart from English, we are deaf and dumb. This is one of the things. So selecting Aoe was based on my my own origin from the region, whereas I'm living in Ashanti. So the political engagement was that the audience that were coming to the event, especially of that of Captain, it will be very challenging to even communicate with them because they are from the Ashanti region and not many of them are Aoes. Now, moving in, it's so difficult and challenging because among the Aoes alone, we have over 20 dialects, which is also very difficult for each individual group to understand. So Megbona is coming from the Southern Volta, which is the Anglo.
Maybe
sorry.
just, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Vabene, you're back.
I was kicked
maybe
out for a while.
Maybe you can finish your thought, Vabene, because we
Okay,
lost you.
so
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Yeah, so what I was trying to say is that even within the airways that we selected or nominated, we have over 20 different languages, different dialects that may not understand each other in any way. So Captain coming from also Vedume is not well understood by Megbona coming from the Anglo, but they are all airways. And then our translator was in between these groups. And so when the translator wrote, Megbona saw that it was not well communicated what he intended to tell the audience, because the understanding is now based on the dialectical grammar of the composition of the text. And politically, the British in the 1916, when they separated this region of Airways from this way, I don't know if I'm still there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're still there. Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you.
All
We're
right,
just
good.
giving you
Okay.
bandwidth.
Okay, sure. All right, sure. So when they separated this region of Airways from the from Togoland, and it was only added to Ghana a year before Ghana gained independence. So basically, the Airways are not even nationally recognized as Ghanaians, even though by constitution we are Ghanaians. But if we look at the contextualization of how people relate to the Airways, it seems they are not Ghanaians. And then just in 2020, they were arresting group of people who were fighting for the recognition of Airways and for the independence of Airways. Now, when we opened the call, one interesting thing that happened is that it was not just based on language, but also based on my queer orientation. So there were people who would have even contributed much more to this conversation who did not want, some even applied and withdrew the application because they recognized after application that I was a queer and a trans person. And that was another interesting point of the political engagement with the language and the person who is curating the language. So even we belong to the same language because of my queer orientation, that alone do not bring us together. And then there were people who also applied to translate and who I would say may be able to create a balance between all the languages with their translation. But they also withdrew because they were Christians and preachers who preach in Aoe and they understand the larger spectrum of Aoe. But because of their Christian religious perspective, me being a queer and a trans person disqualified their engagement with us. So that's why I mentioned that it will be difficult to create any piece of art in our age without any political connotation. And so where I'm coming from, for me, that the phrase in itself is a reclamation. And that is the point at which we came in.
Yeah. That's the political project, right? I think it's important, Vabene, to distinguish it from liberal representation. No? The idea of reclamation is, I think, sharper and more pointed. So, and from Vabene's explanation, there is apparently a presence of multiple translations that always happen within language, and also certain subjectivities, subject language to intense interrogation, like the queer and trans moment. No? I mean, what is language itself becomes part of the political equation, because that is the medium of representation. And if queer and trans are disqualified in the first place, then language itself becomes part of the trouble, no? So, but I'd like to move on to maybe the final prompt, and it has something to do with collaboration. Because many of you work with other people and other disciplines across social worlds now, activists, artists, cultural producers. So what are the challenges involved in trying to work with different systems of making and also different subjectivities, no? Especially if you also take on the curatorial function. Because if you take on the curatorial function, you inevitably include and also exclude, no? So exclusion becomes now part of, in a way, your political power. So that is something that you also, I think, I'm sure you do, reflexively reflect upon as a curator who with broad sympathies and try to collaborate with other people. Nien mentioned his interdisciplinary practice. So maybe you can pick up from that, Nien?
Can I get the question one more time, Patrick? I'm so sorry.
About collaboration. What are the challenges that you have faced when you work with other people from different disciplines or doing other stuff? Yeah.
Look, the first and foremost is the fact that we don't know that collaboration is essential. Collaboration is key. You have to collaborate, and you are always collaborating, whether you're aware of it or not. But the problem is, as soon as you start collaborating, at least in my world, one of the first troubles you come into is the sharing of IP. Who owns the work? Believe me, I know the cohort we have here today has activist ideas behind them. So I know that we have intentions behind just having our message heard. But sooner or later, there are questions about who did that message come from, and an artist's credibility and whose work it is. That's the second category that I can think of. Thirdly, there can be both. You know, like some artists are very overbearing and getting their work out and getting their message heard and getting it done. Some artists really undersell their contribution to the overall outcome. So the mix matching and the challenging and the negotiation of whose work gets put where and how does that all come together to create something can be quite challenging. And I think the most, probably in my opinion, the most unfortunate thing that happens is we tend to give that platform to either the most famous person that you're collaborating with or the one who is most technically capable. You know, you figured, hey, you can draw better than everyone else, so can you just handle this? Hey, you know how to program, so can you just handle this? And we don't stop to think about how much of the narrative is taken over. You know, we think we're just handing someone over for a technical input, but much of the narrative is taken over in there. Those are the things we can think of, but those but because you asked for kind of the challenges, right? Like I don't think I would be doing justice if I did not talk about the benefits of collaboration. The benefits of collaboration is that you can do everything on your own if you want, but you really need to learn how to work with other people if you want to make something truly special. Art has never lived in a silo, ever, nor any other kind of work. In fact, you know, from the earliest work we do to the biggest works we do today, we're always working together, whether you know it or not. And so, when you think about collaboration, you really need to think about not only whom do I work with, but how do we support one another, and what does the voice of us working together sound like? Because that's where the true magic is, right? Like you can only have so many different narratives on your own. It's when you have a conversation with someone through your medium that truly wonderful things start to happen.
Yeah, it's really, thank you for that, Nyen. It's aesthetics and ethics coming together, right? Like the ethos of caring for each other, and also the, the form that is produced from collaboration. I guess you go up and down with the challenge of being horizontal, no? To bringing people together and honoring everybody's contribution to the
But here's
effort.
probably the other part that I didn't think about until just now, because we're talking about languages, right? It's probably a huge part in collaboration. As much as you want to work with other people, oftentimes language can be the enabler and a disabler of a very deep collaboration.
Yeah. Thank you. You'd like to weigh in, Thanom or Va-Bene or Megborna? I mean, it's an open field, yeah. So maybe Thanom, then Va-Bene, yeah.
You are on mute, Thanom, sorry. Mute, yeah.
I'm working in the certain term of collaboration with the community for many 10 years, with the ethnic along the border of Mekong River and Thai. So, I mean, once when we're using the idea of collaboration or collaborative, it's a kind of, we are bringing us to the community. That's why I'm changing my mind. I'm changing my mentality to using collective mentality, collective methodologies. So let them, like we work with Alex and Kullathida. I mean, they know how to dealing with the sphere of political situation right now. And Alex can choose his song when he's facing police like this. Using the song to provoking to awareness of the mass. And Kullathida, how to use her body language to preventing the traffic jam, to stop 100 of cars on the Rajini road. I think Patrick knows about this. I mean, the artists, they know the sphere and they know how to deal. They know how to a collective mentality of the area more than me. I just let them. So I mean, between using the idea of collaborations and a collective is quite different.
Yeah,
that's why I like to bringing back the idea of collective.
Yeah,
because it's like they forget things about this. When we are joining the mass, the collective is more important, more than collaboration. This is my point of view. Yes,
it's not just appropriation, Thanom, no? It's not just appropriation, but like collective and collectivity and solidarity. No? I think should be the central themes. Yeah. Va-Bene, you'd like to weigh in?
If you are hearing me first, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Collaboration has been one of the key things that reappear all the time in artistic works. And also in this work of where I'm coming from, I see it as one of the central navigation for everything to happen. Even as we are speaking today right now, I feel that kind of collaborative conversation. Yeah, then I would begin with the residency I run here, and then I'll tell you how we begin to look at collaboration over the years. So with the residency, we expect that artists who apply, especially from the West, are able to collaborate with local artists and create and have exchange of knowledge and ideas. But then we have come to the realization that in the artistic world globally, we have been mistaking collaboration with contracting, volunteering, contribution, and participatory. So when people participate, we say collaboration. When people just contribute to your piece, we say collaboration. When people volunteer, we say collaboration. When people are even contracted, we say collaboration. However, in my opinion and experience, and even with few researchers, I think collaboration comes with shared ownership, shared experience, shared contribution, and entitlement. But then we also have to be aware of power relations when it comes to collaborations. In who is initiating the idea of the collaboration? What is the main objective and anticipation of the initiator before the other person drawing in? And then when the one that is drew in into the objectives of the initial designer, then there is a question of what do we hope to both achieve and what becomes of our result. And now we begin to think about the entitlement to whatever result it may be. So in terms of collaboration and power relation, what has been prevalent is that when some people who are in power or has more control over a collaborative project, and then they say, let's collaborate with maybe a less privileged and even a marginalized group, especially marginalized group. It becomes sometimes, the word I use normally is queer trading. In a sense, queer trading. Yeah, so it's either a queer trading or a queer trending. So when it's a queer trading, it is because one who is in more power position understand that you collaborating with this person brings value to my work, but it's not about the importance of the person you want to collaborate with. It's about, so that can also be understood in a kind of exploitation. But then collaboration can rather become a contracting. So you actually compensate and pay for this service of the person contributing to your work. And then there is a way of dismantling the idea of exploitation that may come in. Then when it comes to queer trading, which is in not only in queer communities, I'm just using the queerness as an example to reach out to the conversation. So it becomes an issue of queer trading, a trending. It also means that you are aware of the invitation of bodies of people from this environment adding value to whatever you are producing. And in that context, you own entitlement to the piece. So how then do you call this a collaboration when the person invited do not own the same entitlement to the piece? And so these are some of the things we have been navigating in the residency and working on over the years. So collaboration in itself is politically overloaded. And I think we have to begin a new ways of appropriating the language of collaboration and the context in which we actually have to use it when we talk about collaboration. I'll give an example. We have an experience of an act from the West and quite identified and collaborating with a Black person in Ghana. And they began with the idea of collaboration, and I questioned that conversation, if it is collaboration or content. At the end of the day, they finished a very beautiful project, performance, photography, and video. And the other artist coming from this says that she has the entitlement and ownership to the videos, photograph, and all the content, but not the Black person from the university in Ghana, because she is internationally known as an artist, but this black person is not known as an artist. And so the guy couldn't even have the images of his own body to use for anything. And so I kind of question that. How do you put somebody's body in a work and the person cannot have authority over his own body? You can't say, I cannot share my personal body images with you, but your image, denying the person this, but yet calling it a collaboration becomes problematic. So some of these happen.
Hey guys,
in the creative industry when we are yeah, so that is just what it may also not. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
hey
you,
guys,
Vabene,
this is all great. I love you all, but it's almost midnight here, and I think my kid is up, so I've got to go put him back down. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
See you.
It's
Thank you
good
so much.
to meet you, Name, and good to meet you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cool. How do you feel, Patrick?
Yeah, I think we have. I think every conversation is a beginning, and we can pick up from here at some point in the future. But it's very exciting points now brought to the fore.
Totally.
Through experience and also theorization. Those two come together quite beautifully. Yeah.
Very true. So yes, thank you all very much. A quick reminder, obviously the program is accessible on where I'm coming from.world, as well as on our inventory platform, sort of social media. The works will stay there, will be archived. So there's also quite an interesting reflection on the legacy of the work to be there. And thank you so much, Patrick, for sharing, and all the participants and the artists that couldn't be here. Thank you for all your work, and as well for tuning in this Zoom with all the sort of different time zones. So it was really brilliant, and thanks a lot for your contribution.
Sure, yeah. Hope to see you soon, all of you.
Definitely.
Fully in
soon.
Face to face.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One.
อาจารย์ถนอมสวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ